to another episode of the Stadium Journey Overtime Podcast. Thanks for joining us tonight or this afternoon, whenever you happen to be watching. Could be morning, I don't know. You can find all of our 2,500 stadium reviews, news items, and other feature stories on our website, stadiumjourney.com. Connect with us on our social media channels. Find us at Stadium Journey, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of it. Audio versions of the Stadium Journey podcast are found by searching HIAC Talk Radio Network on your podcast app or on Spotify or on Apple. Video simulcast we found at Stadium Journey's YouTube page. Dave, you always distract me when you start doing it. And find our old classic episodes at vocnation.com. And we record live. We stream most times. Not tonight due to technical difficulties, but that's all right. Every other Tuesday night, 8 Eastern at danlaw.tv. And our starting lineup tonight, Dave Cotney. Follow him on social media, on Twitter, at ProFan9. Mark Viquez can be found at Ballpark Hunter. The other guy, Dan Calachico, find him at DanLaw83. And I'm Paul Baker. You could follow me at PuckmanRI. And like I said, this is an overtime podcast. So what we do on our overtime podcast, usually, is recap where we've been in the last couple of weeks so you can all hear about our wonderful and exciting stadium journeys. Let's see, whose turn is it to go first? Mark, you want to lead us off tonight?
Yes, I'll lead it off. Went to Victory Field to check out the Indians for, I think, the third or fourth time this year. However, this was a time I went with friends. We sat on the grass lawn. We had some wine slushies, brought some food in. And it was one of those times I just got to hang out with some friends that I haven't seen in a while, rather than be that guy walking around taking videos and pictures and doing all sorts of stuff. So kind of enjoyed that aspect of it. After that, went to Ball State football. And it was this past Saturday, they were playing Toledo. So you had a lot of Toledo fans make the 2.5-hour drive to Shulman Stadium. Not a fancy stadium, but a stadium that works. It holds a lot of people. The place was packed. It was a really, really great crowd. It was family day. I got there about an hour and a half early. I can tell you this: getting into certain parking spots in the stadium was a pain in the butt because they close off that main artery into the parking lots. And if you don't know the area, you just don't know where to go. I must have circled around the whole complex a couple of times before I figured out what I was doing. When I arrived, it was funny because the tailgating, I was not expecting the tailgating at a Ball State Cardinals game to be that intense. You had the student section, and then you had sort of the alumni section. And both were drunk and having fun and playing music and grilling and cooking. And the students were off the hook. And I'm walking around with my camera shooting videos, and they're like, chirp, 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 screaming obscenities. And, college girls are coming up to me and saying, hey, come to Ball State. This is great. And, I told my wife everything. And my wife's like, well, they're in college having fun and drunk.
You couldn't go 1 week without mentioning the girls. I just couldn't.
I tell you.
Trouble again.
When that video comes up and Alyssa is on there inviting me to some, keg party, some frat party that night, yeah, I'm going to get in trouble. But
Stadium Journey presents Girls Gone Wild.
That's exactly what it was. But it was guys and girls just really, stuff I probably did at Indiana State football games. Oh, heck no, we didn't do it. We didn't go to the football games. But if I went to a college football if I went to any kind of decent college football university, yeah, I probably would be doing some of the things these kids did back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. So, yeah, it was just a lot of fun being out there because I'm used to minor league baseball and Major League Baseball games this year. And this is just a totally different animal, atmosphere, a lot of fun. They had the band out there playing in the parking lot before the game. They had the mascot, they had the cheer team. And then you get inside, and I don't know if they're not prepared for these type of crowds. I don't know if that's the norm for Ball State games. It was kind of a little bit bigger crowd than I had imagined. The concession lines, it was about a 30 to 40 minute wait to get food at the concession lines. They had about 5 opened up, and I was recording the fans online. I said, hey, how long are you guys waiting? And they're like, 30 minutes. 40 minutes. So I was a little bit surprised on how long those lines were. And it wasn't as if they were waiting to get, they're waiting to get basic hot dogs and nachos and pretzels and beer. So, yeah, Ball State's gotta fix that up a little bit because you're missing out on most of the game. If you go a couple times to get something to eat or drink. So, but a lot of fun, great weather, and Ball State, you can buy tickets for $20 in advance and get 2 craft beers and a ticket. You can get tickets for $10 if you just want to get 10. Parking is $5 to $10. I mean, and they're playing Army this weekend. So if you want to go see Army play here in Indiana, it's not going to cost you that much. So a lot of fun, and you get there a little bit early to tailgate. You really can have a time. So
Maction. That I giggle every time you say Ball State.
Ball State. Chirp. What is it? Chirp, chirp. They do that little chirp, chirp. That's their thing.
What were you going to say, Dave?
I was going to say Maction. You got to love Maction.
Maction, yeah.
Ridiculously underrated.
No, it is. It is. And there's some, like Toledo was, I think, a 3-hour drive for me. And Miami Red Hawks
I love Toledo. It was in my top 5 college football experiences.
Is Toledo the one that's got the cannon pointed at their rivals?
Toledo's got the missile that's pointed at Bowling Green. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I was talking to some of the fans there from Bowling. I mean, not from Bowling Green, from Toledo, and I mean they're knowledgeable people. Tell me I need to come up, and it was a good time. I was like, okay, let me just go there, shoot a video, update the review, but much better time than I had thought. So.
Hey, real quick question, guys. AAA season extended as far as the Major League season. What do you guys think of that? A good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, it's always a good thing for more minor league baseball.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I love it.
And I love not that they're not doing the 40-man taxi squad in the major leagues for September. So that's another reason why they did it. But just wanted to get your opinions.
Yeah,
all right, Dave. No?
Yeah.
I don't know. Personally, I like it. All right, Dave, how about you? Travels over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, 3 games this last bit. So
Canada.
Canada. OUA Canada. So OUA football kicked off. So 2 games in Waterloo, and this is our first real experience with the COVID protocols, and the OUA and the universities have been extremely cautious. So started off with my trip to Wilfrid Laurier. Of course, anyone who listens to the podcast or knows me that this is my thing. It's been a bit of a tough start. It starts with no season tickets happening, so it's a game to game basis, and the capacity is way low. The capacity is around 700, which is really surprising to me because the capacity at University Stadium where Laurier plays is is somewhere around 4,000, 5,000. So it was a little confusing. And I'm not sure why they did this. There's a bit of rumblings that part of the stadium has been condemned, but basically they had only the first 6 rows that were available. So there's all of this stuff you got to go through, and you have to be fully vaccinated to go. So you got to go and show your vaccine passport that you go through the school app, and then you got to show your COVID screening questionnaire, and then you got to show your ID, and you got to show your ticket, and go through security. So there's all of this stuff, and then you get into the stadium, and there's people all over. You got to be 6 feet apart. You got to social distance or whatever, but there's not enough seats. It was like they had pushed the whole top of the stadium was basically cut off. So, we were really in tight there. So, that was a different scenario. And actually the following weekend was homecoming, and I couldn't even get tickets for homecoming because of the way that they were selling them. They were sold out in 20 minutes, and they went on sale, at noon on a Wednesday or something. So, those of us with jobs, it's a little challenging. So yeah, I mean Laurier was a little, I don't know, I want to say a little disappointing. Um, that night though, I went to Waterloo and to see the other side of the coin, they did it totally different. Waterloo did sell season tickets, so I bought season tickets for Waterloo. We're down to
The enemy.
yeah, sort of. I don't know, a frenemy. They're frenemy. But they're down to only 3 home games this year instead of the usual 4. I would assume because of COVID. But what Waterloo did is they designated all their seats, so they labeled each seat, which they hadn't done before. Their stands capacity is only about 1,000. So you know that gap wasn't there, but you were in reserve seating, so it was you didn't have that stress of like all of a sudden there's all these people around you, and you know, I mean I wasn't too bothered by that by having the people there, but you know when they're yelling at you to social distance, and you're like, oh, okay, where am I gonna sit? You know, so Waterloo was actually a bit of a better experience. Their quarterback is actually they have a quarterback and a defensive back who are twins, and they've come back for like a 5th year, so they're on the CFL watch list. So Waterloo's probably the better team this year. So I did do that, and then hit my official stadium journey review for the Toronto Argonauts. So I hadn't been to the Argonauts because CFL had obviously didn't play last year. So it was out to BMO Field, and that was kind of interesting. Pod seating again, you know, so socially distant seating, all planned out. I guess the bonus is that like the capacity was about 7,000. Well, the capacity was about 9,000. They had about 7,500 at the game. But previous to that, I mean, the Argonauts have struggled a bit over the years with attendance, and the attendance was only normally about 12 or 13. So it wasn't too much off of a regular kind of Argonauts game. But you know, next podcast we talk to Mike Hogan. You know, he could give us the lowdown on the Argonauts. But it was a beautiful night. The Argos played a great game. Got into a little back and forth with our buddy Tim Capper because the Argos were playing his Montreal Alouettes, and yeah, it was a good time. So that was it. Those were my trips.
Nice. So I had 3 trips myself. Well, 2 trips and a job. Let's see. To probably, well, I don't want to say that. One of the smallest FBS stadiums in the country, and I'm talking about McGuirk Stadium on the campus of UMass Amherst. For one of the worst teams in FBS this year, the UMass Minutemen, they hosted Eastern Michigan and got royally trounced. There's going to be an interesting game at McGuirk in a couple of weeks where UMass and UConn are playing. And I know USA Today does a whole 1 through 130 ranking of all the FBS teams. UMass is at 129, UConn is at 130. So that game is going to be epic. Almost wish I was going to be there.
Well, any team that gets killed by Eastern Michigan is in trouble because that's been a terrible program for a long time.
McGuirk is a really simple facility. It's got a section of, a giant section of bleachers on one side, giant section of bleachers on the other side. They have made some improvements to the place over the years, but it will never be confused as one of the nicer facilities in college football. What was really funny this week was that it was really hot the day I went up there. It was about 80 degrees and sunny. And the sun comes up over one side of the field. So one of the grandstands is in shade and one of the grandstands is in sun. So you can imagine on an 80 degree day with the sun beating down, everybody was on the shady side of the field. And one of my favorite pictures that I took that day is there was a little sliver on the far side of the field, little sliver of shade that was put up by like a concrete wall. And people were lined up against the edge of the bleachers in that one little shady spot. It was really funny. And at UMass, if you happen to go to a later game in the season, everyone will be on the sunny side of the field. So, yeah, UMass used to be known pretty derisively as Zoomass. The atmosphere doesn't quite reach that level. Mark, I didn't go around and catch a lot of people, a lot of students. I wasn't going on filming, so maybe I would have if I had a camera in my hand. It wasn't the rowdy place. Most of the students leave at halftime. They're just there to make their presence known. So only 7,000 people in this 17,000 seat stadium. What was disappointing is the week before, Boston College was actually in town. First time Boston College had been there since the 80s. And they only drew 12,000 to Western Mass. So that was sad. But I mean, it was a good time. McWorks, it doesn't do anything fancy, but it's a decent enough place. The craft beer game has grown strong since my last visit. So that would be a plus if I was partaking. But I was up in the press box. So that was McWorks Stadium. This past weekend, I started hockey season. Went up and caught a game, a North American Hockey League game. That's a Tier 2 junior league here in the United States. Where was I? The New England Sports Village in Attleboro, Massachusetts. I couldn't think of the name of it for a second. Saw the Northeast Generals. The New England Sports Village. One of your basic community rink. It's got 2 full-size rinks. It's got a 3/4 size rink, and it has a pretty cool goalie pad, which really made me want to go out on the ice really bad when I saw this little goalie rink. It was pretty cool looking. The facility was built when they built this, and Attleboro is a suburb of Providence. It's located about 10, 15 minutes outside of Providence, just over the state line. When they built this, they had envisioned building this giant sports complex with the hockey rinks, a soccer field, a lacrosse field, a field house, a small hotel. The place just hasn't done the business that they expected, and they actually filed for bankruptcy a few weeks ago. I don't know how that's going to affect the Northeast Generals, but the rink itself, your basic community rink, had the bleachers on one side. Really bad PA. Couldn't understand a thing the PA guy was saying, which is something I pay attention to closely now. But as far as a place to go catch a game, not your worst place to catch a game. It was about 150 people there, all families, all billets, I think. So, yeah, it was good to be at a hockey rink, though. So I'm not going to talk badly about it. But it was, your basic community facility. And then last weekend I was at UMass Dartmouth football behind the mic again as they played Pittsburgh State. So some Division III action. One thing I learned that I know I did a review of Cressy Field many years ago, and I said that the PA system was horrible back then. I can tell you for a fact it's not horrible anymore. My wife actually came to the game to say hi, and she said when you park at UMass, you have to park a good distance away from the field. And she said when she got out of her car, she could hear me crystal clear. So we got that going for us. So those were my trips over the past couple of weeks.
Which is nice.
We got that going for us, which is nice. Had a couple conversations. I've gotten to use the phrase, we got uniforms and everything. So I love being able to throw that into when I talk about the Boston Pride. Yeah, we got uniforms and everything. I love throwing that into a.
Oh, that's something we didn't talk about yet.
The Pride?
The
rebranding?
NWHL, yeah.
Yeah, they're not the NWHL anymore. They are now the PHF.
PHF.
I know I'm going to screw this. I'm going to screw this up many, many, many
What's
times.
What's hockey, Paul?
I was thinking basketball, I think. I don't know. Yeah, Professional Hockey Federation. And I know I'm going to call it Foundation at least once during a game this season.
Just write it on your notes in big permanent marker, Federation.
Well, hopefully it's on the ice right in front of me, but I will still
there you go.
I will still screw it up.
I liked the name change. I liked the way they were going because there was a lot of social media chatter about the formerly known as NWHL not putting their money where their mouth was as far as equality and transgender. There were people within the staff that had histories of transphobic, homophobic behavior. And they went a complete 180 from saying nothing to going, not only are we changing this, we're renaming it, and we're on the basis that we're completely gender fluid. Period. End of story.
Yep.
And I think that's important.
Yeah,
these days.
absolutely.
I really do.
Agreed. I think it was a good change. And really the only negative things that I saw were people who were upset that now, oh no, now my T-shirt has the wrong name on it.
I didn't see a lot of people complaining except for shit. I'm gonna have to buy another T-shirt.
Yeah.
I like the three. Me personally, with no disrespect to the WNBA, because I've been watching a lot of that because I was disappointed with a certain basketball, so I started watching the WNBA more because there's a local Philadelphia, Natasha Cloud. She is on the Mystics here in DC. And no disrespect to the WNBA, almost got off track there, Paul. But I like the three letters. I like better. It just sounds better. So either way, it was a positive. Their message behind it. I'm glad they're doing it.
Yeah. We had another topic we wanted to talk about this evening, and that was the news coming out of. Well, where was it actually coming out of? Was it coming out of Tampa. Or Montreal?
Out of Tampa.
But, Dave, why don't you take that for us?
Well, I guess the real news is that the Rays have made the playoffs, and there's going to be a sign that is going to be put up in Tropicana Field, which is basically going to allude to this whole idea of the Rays sharing time. They're like the child in the divorced parent in the divorce household, where they're gonna bounce back and forth between mom and dad. They're gonna go from they're gonna do some time apparently in Tampa and some time in Montreal, supposedly.
Montreal, Tampa, X-rays.
The X-rays.
I think isn't that what Kelly came up with last year? The X-rays. I think that's hers. Or that might have been Tim Capper in the chat. I can't remember who it was now. Somebody came up with that.
So thoughts on this?
Is this really a thing? I don't know. There was a funny enough on another website, there was a story about the plan for the new Tampa Rays stadium in Florida, which, and I've said it before, I don't see anybody spending $1 billion on a stadium for a part-time team. I mean, I don't see Montreal doing that either. Now, the city of Montreal has a local election coming up very soon, I think. So the local authorities have been very pro Expos returning and building a ballpark and all of those kinds of things. Of course, that would require the current administration to come back to really put that into fruition. So we'll see, I guess. But I personally don't see Montreal putting up that kind of money without some sort of wink, wink. Oh yeah, and the lease at Tropicana Field is like ironclad, and there's very little wiggle room that's happening. So 2028 is kind of the magic time. But will, even if they say, okay, at 2028 we're out of here, like, are they willing to do that and to really, kill any sort of a home crowd? And it's not just the atmosphere, right? Like, that's money in the pockets. That's like the whole thing. So, are you going to buy season tickets if the Rays say, yeah, we're out of here? Well, okay, fine then. I'll save my money, right? And Montreal saw that too. The writing was on the wall for years, and the crowds just went lower and lower and lower and lower to the point where they were drawing 3,000. But can you think about this? You could have a team that shares Tropicana Field and Olympic Stadium at the same time.
That
makes no sense in this economy. It makes no sense. No, I don't see Tampa Bay approving a $1 billion stadium with anyway.
So is this a way to play the two cities off each other and see who blinks? And
I
who
guess
builds
this
the ballpark?
is a play. Like, I guess they're just going to see the governing parties play ball with each other. Basically, I don't understand. See, I used to be of the I used to be of the mind, misinformed, of course, that it was the fans that killed the Expos. Then, of course, you learn how to research shit, and then you go, "That's not really what happened, is it?"
Yeah, Jeffrey Loria was not a fan.
No.
And he did a darn good job to kill
No.
the Expos.
Yeah,
Not and the Players Association / owners who went on strike in '94 when the Expos were the best team in baseball had a hand in that as well.
But it's just messy to. It's like part of me is as a general fan to know what happened and just selfishly to see the chance that they can get back what they took, kind of like the Winnipeg Jets thing, kind of on a bigger scale though with MLB, to get what they kind of had taken away from them. I kind of want to see it, but at the same time, that's a lot of money, and you also got to convince Montreal to build a new stadium because they're not going to play Olympic. So you got two cities that are going to try to figure out. I don't know. I literally don't have any idea which way this is going. It's fun to watch though.
I could say it was unexpected. The first time I heard about it was Dan's comment, and I'm like, "What?" And then now they're going to Tampa Bay's going to hang a sign, the Expo sign, during the playoffs. It's just an odd story because I remember when the Expos were playing in Puerto Rico. I don't think it was half of their games, but they were playing a series of games. Yeah, there was talk that they may move the team to Puerto Rico, and I'm thinking, well, that's kind of odd. So I'm going to wait for the story to come out. This is like the XFL CFL story. I'm just going to wait. I'm sure we're going to get a definite answer in November. That's going to make sense. But to have Montreal and Tampa Bay share a franchise, so am I expecting them to be called the Expos of Montreal and then the Rays in Tampa Bay? Are the folks in Tampa Bay going to like that? I mean, and this is a good team. This is a team that could win the World Series this year.
Absolutely.
Or at least their pennant. We're not talking about the Tampa Bay Devil Rays of, 10, 12, maybe about 20 years ago. We're talking about a solid run franchise that, probably should have its own. Somebody should figure out how to build a stadium down there already. I know a lot of people in Tampa Bay don't like to cross the bridge into St. Petersburg because apparently it's this horrible place to go to. But, I think my best option is Major League Baseball expands, puts a team in Montreal, and maybe puts a team in Portland or Nashville, wherever, and try to figure out the Tampa Bay situation. But I'm just going to wait and see. I'll see what they say. We could just speculate right now.
I wouldn't claim to know that the neighborhood in St. Petersburg is bad or anything like that. I will say this: it is not a fun drive to get through there. And if you're coming from further, like if you're coming from Orlando or whatever, like I-4 is just it's all good until you kind of get within the bridge, and then it's just putt. And it's like you can see it.
Yeah,
it's there. I can reach it, but I just can't get there. It's so slow. But I think you're right. Like, don't underestimate 30 versus 32 teams, right? There's 30, and 32 is a nice number, and expansion money, and I think expansion is playing an undertone in this whole scenario with the Expos and the Rays and Oakland and Vegas and Portland and everybody.
All right, we'll have to wait back and see. For stadium geeks like us, it's the best, but yeah, we'll see what happens. This ain't the major leagues that we grew up with. It's funny, in the man cave, I've got a vintage set of little baseball pennants that I had when I was a kid, and I was looking at them the other day. Half the teams are gone. So that's where we're going to wrap things up for tonight. Thanks for joining us for this overtime session, and thanks, as always, for your support. Dan, where can our listeners follow you outside of the podcast?
All social media platforms, Dan Law 83.
Ooh, they're not going to follow that scary face.
They're not going to follow this scary face.
Ah!
Yeah.
Mark, do you have any stadium journeys planned for the next couple of weeks? Where can
I
you
was
be followed?
I was supposed to go to Morehead State this Saturday, but I think those plans
Who wouldn't?
have been nixed.
You went from Ball State to Morehead State.
To Morehead State, yeah. So I don't think that's going to happen, which kind of stinks because that's going to probably prevent me from updating the Morehead State game. So, but that what are you going to do? Life and tribulations of a stadium journey rider. But I may be somewhere else, somewhere soon. So follow me on social media platforms. Ballpark Hunter. I'm also on TikTok. I don't know what the heck I'm doing on there though. So you can follow me.
I'm also on TikTok, but I have no idea what I'm doing there.
I don't know. I have a kid in my class that constantly is doing some kind of dance on TikTok.
My favorite TikTok game is to find anti-vaxxer videos getting posted and then finding that their accounts have been deleted. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Little tic-tac-toe game.
Yeah, well. So,
Dave, how about you?
There's more than enough
account?
social media platforms.
Yeah. As the French would say, ne TikTok pas.
There you go.
Yeah, no TikTok here. I don't think I'm really going anywhere. There might be a football game in my future. My son is playing fall ball, so it's back to the local ballpark, which is a little chillier now. But the literary journey continues. Just finished Out of the Pocket, which is Kirk Herbstreit's book, which was really not too bad at all. And of course, I'm into right now Year of the Rocket. It's
91.
Yeah, it's pretty excellent, and I'm sure we might just talk about that next week with Mike Hogan. On Twitter and Instagram, but not TikTok at Profana.
Well, nobody else is going anywhere, so I guess I'm going to make up for everybody over the next couple of weeks. I've had a couple very recent additions to my travel schedule. It looks like Thursday night I will be at Mohegan Sun Arena for Game 2 of the Connecticut Sun and Chicago Sky WNBA playoff semifinals. I was just given some free tickets, so I think I'll have to take advantage of those. On Friday night, I will be at Schneider Arena on the campus of Providence College. The PC women's team is playing an exhibition game against the Boston Pride. So the PA guy for the PC hockey teams reached out to me to ask for some pronunciations. So my question back to him. So which names are you having problems with besides Mallory Soliotis? And he had a few that he was way off on. So glad we could catch up. And I'll probably head up on Friday and catch the Pride in that exhibition game. On Saturday, I will be heading up to Durham, North Carolina, and Wildcat Stadium on the campus of the University of New Hampshire. Did I say Durham, North Carolina? All right, I'm not going to North Carolina. I'm going to Durham, New Hampshire. That's where the University of New Hampshire is. Going to catch the UNH Wildcats in their homecoming game against one of the powerhouses of FCS, James Madison University. And then the following weekend, I'll be back behind the mic at Cressy Field for another UMass Dartmouth football game. You can follow my stadium journeys on Twitter or Instagram at PuckmanRI. And don't forget, once again, check out the website, stadiumjourney.com. Find all of our stadium reviews, our news items, and our feature stories, like the one Mark just put out about the Charleston Charlies. Connect with us on our social media channels at Stadium Journey. Like, comment, share everywhere. Find the audio versions of the Stadium Journey podcast on HIAC Talk Radio Network on your search app, or you can find us on Spotify or other apps of the like. Videos, simulcast of the podcast. Hey, look at that branding. Video simulcast are on our YouTube page. Check them out there. Classic back catalog of our old episodes as we get ready to start season 5. Can be found at vocnation.com. And as Dan was just showing you, if you happen to see it, we record live every other Tuesday night at 8 Eastern at twitch.tv/DanLaw83. Join us again in 2 weeks when we will be joined by our old friend Mike Hogan for a discussion about the Canadian Football League. For Dan, Mark, and Dave, this is Paul, wishing you all safe journeys and close games. Hope to see you on the road real soon.